Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Differentiate Understanding. What I'll be doing is bringing in more founders and builders from the industry in the next couple episodes. So on that note, the guests for today are from the Qoder team at Alibaba, Hang Yu, product lead, and Christian Hu, head of global operations at Qoder. Hang Yu is head of product for Qoder, Alibaba's AI coding platform. Previously, he was a software engineer at Meta and an AI startup founder. He brings both the builder's intuition and the product lens, what developers actually need versus what just looks good in a demo. At Qoder, he's driving autonomous coding so engineers can delegate meaningful tasks to AI agents. Joining us also is Christian Hu, who runs global marketing operations at Qoder with over 10 years of strategy and go-to-market experience. Christian has helped tech products find product market fit and scale. At Qoder, he's mapping the global landscape and driving the company's next wave of international growth. And again, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today, Hang and Christian. So today, the first half of our conversation will really focus on the product design of Qoder and the transition that we're seeing from Copilot to agentic. And then we'll move into the second half of the conversation, which will really focus on the business strategy of Qoder, international expansion goals, objectives, and then how it really fits into the bigger Alibaba AI plan and the bigger AI playbook. So with that, I just want to bring in Hang. Hang, it's lovely to meet you. And thank you so much for joining us today. Let's start with the very, very basics. What is Qoder in plain language, and what does it actually do for developers day to day?
Hey, Grace, thanks for having me. So in one sentence, Qoder is an AI coding assistant that helps developers maintain and improve existing software system, not just build some new stuff from scratch. And I think that distinction is actually really important. So when we look at what developers actually do every day, we found that 95% of professional developers spend their time maintaining what we call real software. So commercially valuable, long-lived systems. They're not building new projects every day from zero. So that's why we design Qoder around that reality. We are optimizing for the messy, important work of understanding existing code, making targeted improvements, and maintaining production systems.
That's really interesting. And, there's, for me, again, not a technical person, the hype we hear about is all this vibe coding. And then there's even these marketing phrases calling it like AI coding, build your app from a single prompt. That's not what's really happening, right? How does it actually really work?
Yeah, exactly. So actually, that's the flash use case everyone talks about, like build one app from a single prompt. But if you're working at a real company maintaining a 5-year-old code base, 500,000 lines of code, and 20 different developers who have touched it over time, you need help understanding what's actually here. So you need help making careful modifications without breaking things. That's where Qoder delivers value. So in terms of how we think about the AI developer relationship, we see it evolving through 3 stages. So the first is assisted programming. In this stage, AI helps the developer while human leads. So like code completion, fixing syntax errors. And the second stage is collaborative programming, like Copilot, like the human and AI works together, like pair programming. And the final stage is autonomous programming. In this stage, AI takes on complete tasks independently. So the developer can delegate work, and the AI runs in the background and comes back with results. That's what our Qoder Quest mode does.
So the really unique bit of Qoder Quest is the autonomous piece, right? And I really want to dig into that a bit more a bit later. So right now I'm curious. So when you say the user experience is quite intuitive, even for non-technical users, what design choices really led to that? Because honestly, a lot of developer tools are pretty intimidating, especially for people like myself who've never done any coding. But what I'm hearing on the street is people are going out of their way, even as non-technical people, building their own apps now with the help of AI. How are they able to do that?
Yeah, great question. So we have this philosophy. So don't make users think about things they shouldn't have to think about. So for example, if you look at some products, they have like 40 different AI models in a drop-down menu. Honestly, that creates a lot of cognitive load. So developers end up becoming model selector instead of focusing on building their own product. So our philosophy here is integrate the globally optimal models and give users the best results. So we will auto-select the right model based on the task. So we believe model selection will be better than human selection. And the same thing with context management. The users shouldn't have to manually figure out, okay, which files to include, what tokens to optimize. Our context engineering handles that automatically. So the goal here is to remove the cognitive overhead. They let developers focus on what they are trying to build, not on configuring the AI tool.
I have a really dumb question, but is there a latency then between me prompting, like, can you help me build this versus the machine telling me which model is optimized? Is there like a
No,
latency? It's
no,
automatic.
there will be no latency. Yeah, it's all automatic. The user will not feel it.
Well, that's amazing. Okay, let's talk about kind of the hype right now, the Copilot versus the agentic transition right now in the like
Hmm.
coding space. Many tools
Hmm.
are being called assistants or some are called co-pilots, right? The
Hmm.
cursors of the world.
Yeah.
And Cursor essentially been leading this. So where does Coder's autonomous capability really truly differ or is unique or different? And what's really the big breakthrough we're seeing here?
Yeah, this is a defining question, right? So Cursor has perfected the Copilot approach, real-time help while you're coding. Their tab completion, tap, 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 is industry leading after 2 years of their custom model training. But I'll say this, so Coder's tab completion compatibility is catching up fast. We have made significant progress in recent months and rapidly grow rapidly. But here's where we see the real future, the autonomous programming. So you dedicate a complete task, implement this feature, fixing this bug, etc., whatever, and then the AI works on it in the background. You don't have to watch every line of code being written. You just come back and review the result. Now, sophisticated autonomous coding and production scale is still evolving. We think it's about 2 to 3 years out, maybe 2027 or 2028, before it's really mature. But that creates an opportunity window.
That's actually quite soon. So what does that really mean
Yeah.
practically?
So it means with autonomous coding, you can actually dedicate your work and make and the AI agentic will can work it background in the cloud. So like you can close your laptop and the AI keeps working. Go to a meeting, go home, do whatever you want. The coder is still running. So in other words, you can spin up like 10 parallel sessions working on different tasks, and it doesn't slow down your own machine. As one colleague said, like he said, like, I'm managing 10 agents. My productivity went up 10 times, and it didn't mess up my work-life balance. Yeah. So this cloud execution model is pretty similar to what Cursor recently launched with their cloud agents feature. So both approaches let you hand off your tasks to agent running remotely. The key advantage here is you are not tied to your machine. You can dedicate the work and then close your laptop and then come back to complete the result.
And how do
And
you
then when
monitor?
the
Oh, sorry.
yeah, and then when the when the agent finishes, you just need to review the results.
So that's actually my question. Like when you talk about reviewing the results, is it very obvious to kind of find the issues only in the result, or do you have to go back to the process? Like how do you audit the whole process actually?
Yeah, the agents will present you a summary of this is what I done, this is the result of the question, or this is the feature. You can see it through the browser, or the agents will submit a PR to your GitLab to your
Hmm.
routine workflow, and you can easily check. Okay, is it done good, or it needs to be modified again?
So does that mean that junior developers in a way will be replaced then? Because essentially you only really need people kind of who understand a higher level of the code and the execution can be actually outsourced so easily.
Hmm. Good question. So simple agentic task works well today. You can already dedicate things like write a unit test for this function or add login to this module and can come back get some good results. So sophisticated agentic coding at production scale, where AI can take a high level business requirements and then autonomously design, implement, test, and deploy complex a complex feature across multiple systems, that's still 2 to 3 years far away. So what this means for software development is a fundamental shift in how developers spend their time.
Hmm.
So right now, developers spend maybe think 30% of the time on creative problem solving and 30% of the time on mechanical work, like writing boilerplate,
Hmm.
fixing syntax errors, updating documentation, writing tests, etc. But as agentic tools mature, that flips. So AI handles the mechanical work. Developers will can focus on what AI can do yet, like understanding what actually needs to be built, making architectural decisions that require domain knowledge, and validating that the code actually does what it should be.
Hmm. So and it's
Yeah.
still like there's still an aspect of the humanity that can't be replaced by machine yet. But let's get a bit more practical. I want to understand
Yeah.
how precisely can Coder actually turn a prompt or product spec into working code? What types of tasks or repos does it handle best today, right now?
So Coder handles best what we call a bounded, well-defined task today. For example, implement an auth authentication for our user login system, or add rate limits to our API endpoints, or generate a dashboard for monitoring system health metrics. So these are tasks where requirements can be clearly specified, the scope is contained, and the success criteria are measurable.
Hmm.
But what's harder today are tasks that require deep domain knowledge or
Hmm.
ambiguous requirements, like improve user engagement, that's too vague, or
Hmm.
requires entire authentication system, that's too large. That's too large and risky for autonomous execution.
So it seems like a lot of the tasks it can do is still pretty much something that's very easily verifiable. It's a bit more like a black and white kind of answer kind of task, but not so much things with nuance, right?
Yeah.
I want to understand better. Thinking about the developer workflow, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's the planning stage, the code writing stage, the running
Yes.
tests, the debugging, version control, deployment, right? Where does
Yeah.
Coder natively kind of sit the most strong, like as in the most helpful, and where do you hand off to other tools?
Great question. Let me break it down. So the first is plan and design stage, right? So Coder is strong here through the spec generation. We can help the developer translate business requirements into technical specs. And the second stage is writing code. This is our core strengths. The Coder can write code across multiple files,
Hmm.
handle complex logic, and generate boilerplate. And for the run and test stage, Coder can generate unit tests, integration tests, and run them either locally or cloud sandbox. That's built-in feature. And for debugging stage, Coder can diagnose its errors from test results and fix them autonomously. But for production debugging with live user data, you still need the traditional tools that
I
need to be taken care. Yeah. And as for version control or collab, we integrate with Git, GitHub, or GitLab. So Coder can create branches, commit changes, and create pull requests. But the actual code review and collaboration discussion happens. Um, sorry, but the actual code review and collaboration discussion happens in your existing tools, GitHub, GitLab, wherever you use.
I see. I
But
think let's
yeah, in the final stage,
go.
like the deployment, we hand off here. So deployment involves your CI/CD pipelines, like infrastructure monitoring system. So Coder creates the code and the tests, but you own your deployment process.
I see. I kind of want to take a step back, understand another big kind of hovering question a lot of people have right
Yeah.
now, which is if we're gonna have agentic tools really implemented in the work processes, how do we understand developer productivity for the future? Will developer productivity still be measured the same way that it's currently being measured?
Yeah, I think the fundamental shift here is this. So AI changes what developers spend their time. AI changes what developers spend their time on, not just how fast they work. So again, right now, developers spend maybe 70% of the time on mechanical work,
Mm-hmm.
like writing boilerplates, debugging syntax errors, searching documentation, setting up environments, and only 30% of the time goes to creative, high-value stuff, like understanding what need to be built,
Mm-hmm.
like understanding what needs to be built, making architectural decisions, and validating that the solution actually solve the problem. But
I see.
with AI, agentic AI flips that ratio. So AI
Mm-hmm.
handles the mechanical work. Developers focus on the part that actually requires human judgment. So when we measure productivity, we are not counting lines of code or tickets closed. So we are looking at can developers spend more time on higher value work? Can they ship features faster without burning out? So what we are seeing is promising. 99% of our paid users actively use uh, agent model. Nearly 99% of our paid users actively use agent mode. So it's become core to their workflow. 80% renewal rate tells us that people see the real value here. And enterprise reports 2 to 3 times improvements in the deployment frequency. So the real metric here is simpler. Developers tell us that they are less frustrated. They are not stuck debugging environments or writing repetitive code. They are solving interesting problems. And that's the productivity gain that matters.
I see, I see. That's really interesting because I think as a writer, when people really initially rejected AI, the idea was also that there was a lot of mistakes, AI slop, hallucination, whatnot. But then what people started realizing is that you can actually use it as a productivity tool. And like to your point, it doesn't change how you think as a writer, building out the framework, using your critical thinking, and really still rely on your own creativity. But what you're outsourcing is actually just like the execution that was a lot of the grunt work, frankly.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, you
Interesting,
free up your
interesting.
hands and you free up your hands and focus on your head.
Okay, so I wanted to ask another question on productivity and bottlenecks. So, what is, I guess, one of the top bottlenecks, or what are a few that you see currently in this space for developer right now? And I guess can we actually separately answer this question? The first half being what are professional developers bottlenecks, and what are kind of the new age like casual developers bottlenecks, and how are you helping these two differently?
Good one. Let me hit the main ones. So usually the bottlenecks, the first big bottlenecks is about the environment setup, right? So this is a huge time thing. The coders and then the coder can help you set up the environment automatically, whether you are running it locally or in the cloud.
Mm-hmm.
Pre-configured environments, automatic dependency resolution, so you don't have to spend 2 hours debugging your Python version configs or just trying to build your dev environments. And then for the flaky tests, a coder can also detect flaky tests by running them multiple times and identify inconsistency. So it can also suggest fix based on the failure patterns and the test outcomes. And then for another bottleneck here is the legacy code, right? This is where the repo wiki comes in. So remember how I said the documentation is always out of date for developers? Repo wiki delivers value here. So repo wiki features here can use AI to generate up-to-date documentation from the code itself, plug the
Mm-hmm.
Git history. So it's not just here's what the function does documentation, but here's a business logic and why it was architectured this way and what changed and why documentation. So the documentation itself stays fresh. When code changes, the documentation regenerates automatically. So we have measured about 5 times speed improvements. So from 60 minutes down to 12 minutes for team documentation. And the last but not least bottleneck here is the context limit. So this is a technical challenge. Models have tokens limits. So we have our context engineering figures out what's actually relevant to the task. So we don't just dump the entire code base, which will crush your token limits. We intelligently select what the task needs and what the AI needs, and we gain a better solution from the context we select.
That's really interesting. So I think I want to talk about the models and orchestration here. So Coder's a multi-model platform, right? You guys use
Yeah.
Qwen, your in-house built models, but you also use other models like you mentioned earlier. You use whatever is like kind of state of art model for the right task, right? How do you route between the models, thinking about latency, cost, evaluations, languages? Do you usually like have a preference for Qwen or the third-party models when you're assigning these models to tasks?
Okay, so what we are trying to do here is integrate the globally optimal models. So what we are trying to do here is to integrate the globally optimal models and give users the best result. We are not limited to just Alibaba's model. So if one frontier model is better for a specific task, we use that. So like if GPT excels somewhere, we use GPT. If Qwen is the right fit, we use Qwen. So now, why does this matter? So first, it buys us time. I'll be direct. So Qwen model isn't the best model in the world for every coding task yet, but it's improving fast. So by using the best global models today, we can serve users well while we can serve users well while our own models can catch up. And if Qwen becomes the best model globally in a year, which is our goal, then naturally we'll use it more. And secondly,
But actually,
yeah,
just want to
sorry.
jump in on that. But actually,
Yeah.
Cursor's even using Qwen. Isn't that fascinating that we just found out recently?
Yeah, the cursor's composer they didn't officially admit it, but it's
Mm,
so the community thinks they're fine-tuned and post-trained based on Qwen
I
or some
see.
Chinese open source model. Yeah. So The first is best of time, and second, the cost optimization without compromising quality is our second goal. So not every tasks need the most expensive frontier model. So
Yeah.
simple completion use a smaller, faster model, but for complex reasoning, we use the frontier model. And last but not least is about the reliability. So you don't want your entire product to stop working because one API provider has an outage. Here we saw OpenAI has multi-day outage in 2023. We want keep our reliability to our customer. Yeah, that's why we use multimodal strategy. Yeah.
I see, I see. I was actually kind of going to ask you on that. So, like, what's the thinking behind designing the product using a multi-model design versus only proprietary Qwen? But I guess you already answered that partially.
Mm-hmm.
I also wanted to kind of double click on the fact that Alibaba is throwing 53 billion US dollars into AI infrastructure right now. Isn't it? Is there not some kind of pressure coming from up top to really hone in on Qwen? Or, you know, like, I guess the question is more about, is Coder really developing based on what's the best for the user and use whichever model that's best for them? Or is it more focused on being part of an ecosystem, another tool out of the Alibaba set of tools that they provide? Does that make sense?
Yeah, great question. So it comes down to serving users best today while building towards to the future. So look, Qwen models cost us like 1/5 or 1/6 of what frontier model API costs. So that's an 80% cost reduction, right? That's a structural advantage. But Qwen isn't as good as the top frontier models on complex reasoning tasks. That's why we use a multimodal setup at the balanced cost, availability, and reliability. But the key insight is that this isn't a permanent state. Improves as Qwen improves, as coding capability, as Qwen. So the key insight is that this isn't a permanent state. As Qwen improves, as its coding capabilities get stronger, the balance will shift. So we are not philosophically opposed to vertical integration, and we are actually pragmatically choosing what serves users best today while building towards our ownership tomorrow. So for enterprise customer in China, compliance actually requires domestic model anyway. But for international customer, they often trust well-known frontier models or GPT models. So multimodal support let us serve both.
I think that's a really interesting business strategy because, end of the day, to your point, it's a very pragmatic approach to actually serve your customers best. And to serve your customer best, you actually get more business. That's just how the virtuous cycle works, right? Instead of building up these guardrails and paywalls. I want to kind of pivot to strategy soon, but before we do that, I really want to ask you a few other questions just on a more broad general question. One is,
Mm-hmm.
you've been working in this space for a long time. There's a lot of hype around agentic tools, not just agentic tools in coding, right? How do you view agentic AI in the next 12 to 18 months? And how do you think it'll actually affect what even the general mass think of AI and use AI?
I think agents will swallow the whole market. Like agents, people will use more and more agents in their daily workflow. So like when you're trying to use a chatbot, you need to copy paste a lot of data, your context, your own data, your domain knowledge to chatbot, and then generates some specific task results. But if you by using agentic AI, you don't need to do that. The agentic AI will live in your workflow. It knows and it contains your domain knowledge and it knows your context by nature. So this means the agentic AI knows what you're trying to do, what you did, what you're trying to do, and what you want. That's actually a big difference between the big difference between the LM and agentic AI.
I
So
see.
I think yeah.
I think that leads me to the next question, which is like, so for teams who are customizing tools or agents, right? Like you just said, they would have domain knowledge. They would already know your work processing really well. And how does it actually work? What's the plugin API story with Coder in this sense again?
Yeah, so this is about the domain knowledge question and the accessibility work. Let me break down how the domain knowledge and the accessibility works. So first, we have MCP supports. We support the Model Context Protocol, which is becoming the industrial standard for connecting AI agents to external tools and data source. So this means the coder can integrated with thousands of tools in the ecosystem, database, API, version control, and project management through a standardized interface. And then we also support sub-agents and skills. So teams can create their own specialized sub-agents. Think of this as task-specific AI workers with their own context and capabilities. So you want a code review sub-agents turned into your so you want a code review sub-agents turned to your team standard. You can define it. You need a security scanning sub-agents for your compliance requirements. Build it by your own. So these are the version controlled and shareable across the whole team and can also run in parallel. And as for the domain knowledge, you can inject your own documentation, design system guidelines, and your coding standards directly into Coder's context. And when Coder generates code, it will follow your rules automatically. So now, here's the key part: how you actually use all this. So you can think of Coder like a Stripe for payments or Twilio for communication for communications. You just embed it into your existing development workflow. You don't need to replace your IDE. You integrate Coder into VS Code, into JetBrains, into Terminal, into your CI/CD pipelines, wherever you already work. And there's actually a precedent here. So Alibaba's Model Studio platform has enabled over 800,000 custom agents across different domains. And we are also trying to bring the same extensibility here to coding workflows.
That's really, really interesting. Thank you so much for sharing all that. I do apologize if any of the bit that I didn't sound that smart because it's so technical, but I really appreciate you breaking it down for me and really explaining it to me in very simple language. I have one last question for you, which is something I always ask all my guests. What is one differentiated view you hold? And this doesn't have to be about work. It could be about your space. It could be about agentic coding. It could also be about anything else in the world. It could be about your experience in Silicon Valley versus China. Just a differentiated opinion or view of something that you think is not that mainstream, or it could be a bit against consensus.
So we talk about something related to agentic coding. Actually, I don't think the transformer-based LLMs in the future, because I actually do agree with that point that LLMs is just a compressor of the text. They don't really understand what they are talking about. But I think as the development, as the technology develops, as the technology goes, one day we will have the truly AGI, but it's not based on transformer.
What does AGI mean then?
AGI means the AI can really understand what it's talking, what it's doing, and really have emotions.
Fully human, emotionally, intellectually functioning,
like human are. Yeah. From this perspective, they have emotions. They have logic. They understand the work, the 3D work, and they have logic of okay, why I'm doing this, and what I'm going to do in the next.
Is that scary to think? Because in many ways they would be more powerful than us, right? They can speak every single language on earth. They will know more knowledge than us as an individual.
We can cut off the power.
But can we though? What if what if there's charge and they can charge themselves these days? These humanoid robotics.
Oh, you mean they take off the charge by themselves?
Yeah, do you ever worry about this AGI achievement going rogue?
To be honest, I'm both a little bit excited about this and a little bit scary.
Yeah, I think especially for the next generations, right? What does it mean for them? All right, Christian, thank you so much for joining us. I just spoke to a colleague, Yu Hang, that he was super helpful explaining to me the technicalities of Qoder and the design of the product. My interest right now is really shifting towards strategy and vision side of Qoder. I'm really glad that you can join us today. So why don't we start with the beginning? Why build Qoder inside of Alibaba? What was the thinking behind that, and what unique advantages does that really give you, given that you have someone who just threw $53 billion into AI infrastructure that's backing you, right?
Yeah.
In terms of distribution, your infrastructure, your data, your model access, how does that really advantage you in many ways?
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Grace. Thanks for having me here. Yeah. Alibaba has a very big plan and has very big ambition for AI and his position in the future in the AI industry. And as you know, Alibaba has a full stack, we call the full stack strategy, from the cloud to model and to application. So that's the full stack strategy. And for for Qoder, we don't build Qoder in a vacuum. Yeah, we build Qoder from the real context, because you can find we got so many maybe thousands engineers from inside Alibaba. They are facing very real software problems in real software development. They have many issues in interface, how to fix the issues. But for the existing AI coding tools, they are maybe reactive. They cannot resolve some existing problems, maybe some complex and sophisticated problems in the real software development process. So they are trying to refer to a new product. We build Qoder from inside. We have so many inside demand from the inside engineers. Also, you want to, as you know, part of Alibaba give us. We have so many advantages, because first of all, we own models, because we have early access to Qwen, that's Alibaba's large language models. We don't just use Qwen, we also reinvent and feed Qwen with our real data from our the coding code base. So we just reinvent the Qwen, and we are coordinated with the Qwen team to improve the performance of Qwen models. And then secondly, we own the cloud. The bottom layer of Alibaba's AI strategy. So that's the cloud. Because every digital tools, and maybe even every AI coding tools should be based and should be built on large cloud infrastructures, consume very large computing powers. So cloud is also a very important factor in AI coding platforms. The third, I think the most last one, but not the least, we also have the advantage of Alibaba has so many enterprise customers and so many business. We got some business lines, maybe from the consumer to enterprise, from the SMB to large enterprises, from the consumer to industries. So we got so many data as real data for us to how to involve in the area AI to upgrade our coding platforms from the real data. So that's back to the origins of the Qoder. So we just not create another AI coding platform just for the tool. We want to build Qoder as a new platform for agentic platform for the real software. We want to build the Qoder for real software, not just for fun, not just for from the fun making, from the real software.
Thank you. That's really helpful for everyone to understand. And I think saying we have a model is the most humble thing anyone can refer to Qwen as, because you guys have one of the best leading open source, open weight models in the world right now. Actually, so on that right now, we've been hearing a lot of news about people adopting Qwen globally, and it's really being used not just in China right now.
Yes.
Who are the people using Qoder actually? Are they mostly Chinese developers, or are you guys actually expanding globally? That's, I guess, first half of that who. And the other half is, are these mostly professionals, or are they like students, or are they enterprises? Like, how do we understand the demographic here?
Yeah, good question. We are building Qoder for global developers from day one. Yeah, so that's not just for Chinese developers, but from the global ones. And for now, our users are mainly come from the we call the individual developers, not just the enterprise users, because we the enterprise edition is on its own way. We want to start with the individual users at first, and from the geographically from China to the overseas markets, we find some difference between different preference for different users in different regions. Yeah, from in China, they would prefer to the more integrated coding system existing with the existing customers, maybe for integrate with existing systems, and in the Western countries, so maybe in US or maybe some in Malaysia, the users will prefer to a more flexible work ways. So they have different preference for different coding languages. And for now, we are trying to solve the real software development problems. So most of the users comes from the professional users, because they are have a real problem to resolve in the real software development process, because they're doing their work. Because they are doing work, they want to increase their productivity levels to solve more problems. So the main users come from the professional users. But we also find the increasing adoption of the individual users and some new learners, maybe some product designers, maybe some UI, maybe some UX designers. They want to deploy the AI coding tools to invent some new interface, or maybe some new mini apps to increase their productivity. Yeah. So that's the trend. We believe Qoder is created to solve the real software development problems. But we also find our agentic models and the Quest models can allow more users, just like the new learners and new learners, to individuals to use our software to create something new and something more powerful. Yeah.
So my understanding is that Qoder itself came out of the desire to help professional developers, but a Qoder Quest, that mode you can go into, can help actually people with less technical backgrounds to actually be able to play around with it and potentially still build their own thing, right?
Yes. Yes. Quest model is maybe the key to unlock more space for the web coding.
Okay.
What is web coding? Yeah, web coding is for non-professionals to use the code tools to create something new. I think the Quest model may be the new way to unlock more web coding. But our Quest model is not different. It's still existing agent model of other competitors or maybe other coding platforms, because our Quest model is also agentic. Is agentic, but also we call it delegative, and you can control the workflow and control the result on the Quest model. So that's for real software. Yeah. So the Quest model of code is for real software.
I see.
Yeah. Do you get the point? Yeah.
I think I have a question for you. I asked Yuhang earlier as well, but basically my question was that, there are a lot of tools out there already, like the Copilots, Cursor, Co-Whisper,
Yes.
Warp. There's a whole array of them. How do I understand where Qoder sits? So Yuhang explained it to me in the technical sense of where it sits between Copilot and agentic. Can you explain to me where Qoder sits in terms of like the business positioning?
Okay, we have a slogan for Qoder. We call agentic coding platform for real software. Yeah. So we got two keywords: agentic and the real software. Yeah, I just explained what it is software. I can explain more about the software because many developers, no matter the professional developers or non-professional developers, they found something critical in their developing process, because they need to know the existing code base. Need to understand what the existing code mean, or what the existing documents mean for the codes. So they need to understand so much documents, so much files to understand what the coding process will be have. So we created the RepoWiki and the non-memory non-context memory functions to understand the codes, understand the documents, understand the behaviors of the developers. So for the new entrants, for new developers, they know how to get the real software down. So that's the issues in real software development context. Yeah. So that maybe that seems different from what we call web coding. So that's for real software. And for agentic, for most coding platforms, we call you prompt and the React in but for Qoder you delegate the code delivers. So the code deliver the result. The code deliver the real software and real result and the real apps for your delegations. That's the difference from the existing, maybe some most competitors agentic platforms. So we are just not want to respond because the delegation can to free you from the desk. For most agents, you also need to speak to the agent. You need to prompt to the agent. You need to communicate with the agent while you are sitting alongside the desk the delegation can free you. You just don't need to communicate with the agent. You don't need to interact with it for line by line word by words. You just need to mark it precise and maybe some to check with the workflow so that the code can deliver the result. That's the difference between from the other competitors.
I see. Actually, let's take a step back. I've noticed that when I was doing some research on you guys that, not just Alibaba is creating these coding tools. We have, even just in China, we have ByteDance creating something similar. Obviously, Microsoft has things like, has Copilot. So then we are looking at, obviously, then the startups and the frontier labs all kind of swarming into coding tools. Why is that? What is really the reason for focusing on coding right now as the next kind of use case?
Yes, actually, coding, as we just talked, coding may be acceptable for every engineer, maybe not engineer, maybe you're just a digital learner, maybe just an analyst for the AI. So the coding is the most certain way to token consuming for the infrastructure, consuming the tool to the cloud infrastructure. Maybe the coding is the most certain way. So, and I think for different players, and they are playing different games. For giants, you just mentioned ByteDance, maybe Microsoft, maybe AWS, they have very large cloud infrastructure. They're just to integrating the new AI application to the infrastructure. And for Anthropic, maybe some other frontier labs, they are, I think they are trying to find the new path to the consumers, maybe the path to the to the developers, maybe some to the application levels. So for Cursor, so they are just a new startups. They are deploying the large language models to the and they made it accessible to the new developers. Cursor has, I think for new startups have their weakness. Maybe they have their cost structure weakness. I mean, they are the users of the large language, and they can dominate the language model, and maybe they will be had the risk to disengaging with the large language model owners. So that's the cost. I think the cost structure risk for them. And for Qoder, as I just mentioned, the Qoder is born within Alibaba. Alibaba is a full stack, has its full stack from cloud infrastructure to model to application. So I think that's the great advantage. As you know, as you just mentioned, the Qwen is very popular around the world. Maybe some, I just kind of found the news Airbnb.
Yeah, Brian Chesky's.
Has adopted Qwen open source model to reinvent their own AI infrastructures. I think that's very popular. And for Cursor, interesting thing for Cursor itself, they just came up with a new composer model. We call it it's a small model for coding, but we have speculation that this small model comes from the Qwen or maybe some Zhipu. Both of them are from China. So we will find that the full integration and full connection with the model and the cloud infrastructure will benefit or not for Qoder in the future.
Actually, on the point of how Qoder sits in Alibaba, can we kind of zoom in on that? Like, can you help us understand the big picture? Like, where does Qoder sit in the Alibaba grand AI strategy across its stack?
Yeah, I think Alibaba AI strategy is a very big picture and also very long roadmap for we call the super artificial intelligence. We call it super artificial ASI. That's the roadmap. And so from the map, so when you look at the map, I think it will from the bottom to the top level. I just mentioned is the cloud infrastructure. Yeah, the middle level, I mean the Qwen, maybe some other large language models in the middle layer. And the Qoder, I think, sits on the application level alongside with some other applications, maybe, DingTalk, maybe Quark, maybe some other applications on the application levels. I think that's the full, we call we call the full stack strategy for Alibaba in the near future. Yeah.
I understand you lead Qoder's international operations and marketing, right? And that's a pretty big
Yes.
title you got here. What's your GTM focus right now? Where are you kind of focusing on essentially selling your product to? Like which markets, through what channels? How is this kind of working out for you?
Yeah. So I think it's a tough task. I know because we're new, just a baby. We just launched our products about 2 months, maybe no longer than 3 months. Yeah. We're just a new one in the market. So but ambition is here. We want to become the top global coding platform for global users. So for me, I think the go-to-market strategy for us to go global, I think we need more partnerships. We need more integration with the local communities. So for me, that's why I've flow to different regions to meet up with local community developers, maybe the leaders of local communities. We want to talk about what kind of preference for them, what kind of products they want to prefer in their context, in their context, maybe within the enterprise, maybe within and the individual developing context. And also we're aiming to the global products. We are not going to separate China with the global markets. We won't offer two different products. We just offering one product, one platform, the one user interface for for the users all around the globe. So that's the challenge that we believe we can do that because we are trying to to interact directly or maybe talk directly with the developers from the different corners of the world.
Yeah, that's definitely quite different from how Chinese companies used to sell their products abroad, right? Because it used to always be a one
Yes,
application or a one interface, domestic one interface
yes,
for the globe, for the
yes.
rest of the world. So actually on that, I think my final question for you really is just how are you navigating the current climate? Obviously it's not easy given just current
Mm-hmm.
situation with geopolitics, with
Mm-hmm.
competition, with everything, right? How are you
Yes.
navigating differences between China and the global markets in terms of adoption, compliance, data residency requirements, and even developer culture? Because I know you were just in Singapore, like you mentioned, you're flying around a lot, you're meeting people from different parts
Yes.
of the world. How are you making it all work?
Quite different. I think it's quite different. I have seen huge difference from the developers in China from the developers in Southeast Asia because I just fly to Singapore and meet up with some local developers. So the difference comes from different angles: the user interface and the language, and maybe some other features of the software. So the difference, so there are very huge difference between the different rappers and in geographically and demographically. Yeah, so all the differences are very huge. And we also find some because we are trying to offer our enterprise edition in the near future. So we also we have made a study for the enterprise levels users in different markets. So we find quite different stories because in China the developers in the enterprise, maybe in the small companies, maybe a large small companies, they would prefer the company to purchase the software. They prefer to use the existing software. They choose to use the software can be embedded into well embedded into the existing OA system or maybe existing the software ecosystem. So they prefer the existing, they prefer the integrations. But in other countries, maybe in other markets, they prefer more flexible and more isolated applications. They don't care about the integration. They don't care about the sophisticated integration, maybe sophisticated workflow, and they're controlled by the admins, maybe they're controlled by the company owners. So that's the different cultures. So you can find it's very common for individual users to buy our software, buy our products in other countries. I mean, outside the mainland China. Yeah. So
That's really
that's the
interesting.
huge. That's the
I would think
interesting.
yeah, I would have thought the integration part is something that everyone kind of wanted because it makes your workflow so much more seamless, right? And that was the selling point for all
Yeah.
Microsoft's tools, essentially, right? In the software
Yes.
era. Interesting. Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that we don't need to make integration, make some ecosystem with the. You just mentioned Microsoft. I mean, the OA or maybe some Workday, some other software platforms. Yeah, we also want to explore more connection with the existing software.
Thank you so much, Kristen. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
If you enjoyed this conversation and found it insightful, please follow and subscribe to Differentiate Understanding on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Grace Zhao, and thank you so much for listening. And I'll be so grateful if you shared an episode with a friend.